What's your next question?
I have a specific issue with several of the bylaws, and I know that several of the folks who have actually seen them do as well. For one thing, there's an item in the bylaws that has, by the way, Sarah Todd from the state committee, Miss Evans, since I know you're back there as well, from the state committee has told us that if they submit these bylaws with the amendment that says that people can be removed from the committee for speaking negatively about the officers or any of the actions of the Richmond County Democratic Committee, that they can be removed from the committee for speaking to media in a way that is critical of this committee or the officers. It specifically says that. We asked Sarah Todd from the executive committee of the Democratic Party of Georgia about that, and she said, we have not seen that, and it would not pass our scrutiny. It would not pass our process for ratification.
Well,
Violates First Amendment.
She doesn't know what it
She
is.
has seen it because we sent it to her.
I've sent her copies of it.
Thank
She
you.
said that the committee leadership
Thank you.
is not. I was not finished. That's only one problem that I have.
Yes.
My next problem that I have
Excuse me,
is
sir, I
I was
have
not
the
finished.
floor.
I gave you the floor a moment ago
Oh,
to
come
speak,
on.
sir, and I will gladly do so
I
again. I was
appreciate it.
not
I
finished
want to do
talking.
a compromise.
Excuse
So
me.
keep quiet.
2 minutes. All right, wait.
2 minutes. I propose, madam, that two people from the opposing group meet with Chris, the Reverend, and the nominating committee to show their complaints, and we settle it in committee before we
That is
bring
not
it
happening.
here.
I second that. I second that.
What is the rest of your question?
Well, the rest of my comment was going to be about the procedure for removal. For one thing, the procedure that's already set out in the bylaws was not followed at all in the removal of Joey Traina, as you well know. The bylaws as they currently exist require that we have a separate subcommittee that essentially conducts a trial, in which case the offendant, or the defendant rather, has the opportunity to defend himself, hear charges against him, and then there's a vote. None of that happened. You claimed that there was an executive committee meeting in which there was a unanimous vote to remove Traina from the building or from the committee. One, that's not the process in the bylaws. There's a separate process for forming a subcommittee, as I just said. And the second point is that even if that were true, that wasn't an accurate claim either way, because Sid Gates informed us after the meeting that he was not even aware that there was a vote. And to my knowledge, he's an executive officer. So we already have issues not following the bylaws that currently exist, and you're trying to ram through bylaws that the majority of the committee has not even seen, and not even allow us an opportunity to go through them and tell you what is problematic in them. And you're trying to limit discussion. The only discussion that you've had with the general committee, you're trying to limit arbitrarily at 2 minutes, when that's not even a process that's set out in the DPG bylaws or in Robert's rules.
Any other questions? Any other discussion?
Yeah, this all sucks. Please continue.
Thank you.
Everything that he said, I specifically said to your face last month at the meeting. I want you to recognize that there are multiple people that are thinking this.
Are we having 2 meetings?
Yeah, that's the officers taking care of that. Yes.
I want you to know, and I want the record to show, that the complaints that Jared Gay just brought up were brought up to you personally from my mouth to your face last month, and you did exactly what you're doing now, giving this blank expression because you're just waiting for me to shut up. I do not appreciate the way that you have treated me personally, or most people have done this, or most people in this committee has treated me, or other people who are just trying to get involved. There are continuous complaints, the same complaints, and you are not giving anyone the time of day.
Let me just shut it down. Look,
You have the DPG bylaws.
this is the House of
Any other
Cards.
discussion?
I have a point to make. Yes.
Diane Evans had no right
Let me see the
to
DPG bylaws.
conduct any of those elections.
There are
Here, who says they're a member is not, because Diane Evans was never given any sanction from the state, from the Democratic Party of Georgia, to run the elections.
Excuse me,
They're
let me
fraudulent.
talk.
I can show you right now where Sarah
Wait
Todd
until he
No,
finishes.
said that Diane Evans had
He's a
no
member.
business running those elections. So, in the
Okay.
bylaws of our own county bylaws state at the bottom there that we cannot hold any bylaw elections without 40% of total membership.
Are you gonna say something?
Two-thirds
When you
votes
say
of
it.
40% of total.
No, I can't.
Throw him out!
If you're a Democrat,
Throw him
you
out!
care about your integrity.
No,
You need
no.
throw him out. Violate
He
my
is
First
a
Amendment
member
right.
of this party and has a right to be
You should be
here.
ashamed as a Yale law grad to have ever penned this.
Can I
This is a
read?
violation of my
out.
First Amendment right. I am a member and
Throw
already
him out!
completely
Throw him out!
If you're going to-
Throw him out!
Will everybody be quiet?
Throw her out.
No,
She's causing a disturbance.
I'm causing it.
Yes.
Point of order. You need to look at the bylaws. Point of order. It is not point of order for me as a member to call.
I want to read the bylaws for removing a member. I want,
meeting for a minute
Point of order.
till we get everything organized here.
I move for
Can you
recess.
just can you just end the meeting just for a minute?
yeah,
I
let's,
move for a brief recess. We're not adjourned.
Second.
second,
See, that's unity.
thank you.
Rabbi, thank you, by the way. Thank you.
It's a good faith thing that Lowell is saying here.
I would.
He's trying to broker some kind of compromise.
That's fine.
I'm fine. Actually, I'm fine with that compromise.
We've been asking that for months.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that comes
They
with a
don't wanna be.
postponement anyway,
But
because we
I'm
have
still
to. Yeah,
willing to
so
do it.
I'm fully in favor of
We're
that
willing to
compromise.
be.
That's reasonable.
I know.
No.
It's a,
But thank you for making a
and we
suggestion, and I
accept
agree with
that's
it.
a good suggestion.
That is a good faith compromise, and I appreciate it.
Here, here.
And thank you, Rabbi.
Do we have a copy of the proposed bylaws with us?
Since we have a minute of downtime, they've temporarily taken a recess because of the disruption that's broke out. I'd like to say, first of all, that the rabbi, we have butted heads numerous times, but I really appreciate the fact that he spoke up and said what he did. I mean, we agree with everything that he said, and not only that, but I actually appreciate what Lowell Greenbaum said. Lowell Greenbaum said, what about a compromise? Let's have two people from their group and two people from the executive committee speak and have a discussion about the bylaws and try to come to a consensus and then come back next month or the month after and vote on them then. And as many times as I've butted head with
Chris immediately said no.
Oh, of course he did, because Chris is crooked.
Officer, we need to go back into our meeting.
This hasn't been resolved. Hasn't been resolved.
Until they get here, we need to hold up, okay?
Yes. And it was a good faith compromise that was suggested by Mr. Greenbaum. I appreciate the fact that he brought it up. As anybody who's been following this knows, I've butted heads with Mr. Greenbaum and Dr. Greenbaum numerous times as well. Most of this has stemmed from a conflict that originally involved Lowell Greenbaum principally. But what he suggested is a good faith compromise that our group, despite the fact that we're labeled as radical and committed to chaos and disruption, a phrase you literally used in the minutes within the last year to describe us, we are fully in favor of that compromise. We think it's entirely reasonable, and I thank the rabbi for speaking, and I thank Mr. Dr. Greenbaum for bringing it up. Really, right now, the only people who are standing in the way of this are Chris Johnson, Elsie Miles, Matessa Wright, and the members of the committee that you saw in the back. Well, I'm assuming that at least some of them are members of the committee who decided because they don't like our tone or because they are just close. I don't know what their reasons are. Maybe they're close with the executives on a personal level, but either way, they came out and voted blindly to rubber stamp the process that was presented to them in the face of very reasoned criticism coming from people who formerly were members of kind of the establishment narrative or the establishment perspective on this. So, and for those of you who are wondering what happened, hold on.
Yes, man. They just want yes men. Chris Johnson just
Yeah.
wants yes men. He just wants people that'll do whatever he wants, whenever he says. Matessa wants that. That's all the RCBC wants is yes men.
Right, they just, they're